Our friend David Pakman covered a report about Trump's apparent lack of knowledge on his own DACA decision. So this is really interesting and pretty sad. Let's watch.
It appears Donald Trump truly didn't realize what would happen if he rescinded DACA, which he said he would yesterday. According to the New York Times, as this entire thing was developing, Trump administration officials were worried that Donald Trump didn't realize what would happen if he rescinded DACA. To put it another way, Donald Trump made a major decision about policy without understanding what it meant or the implications. Here's a quote from the New York Times yesterday. The blame-averse president told a confidant over the past few days that he realized that he had gotten himself into a politically untenable position. As late as 1 hour before the decision was to be announced, administration officials privately expressed concern that Mr. Trump might not fully grasp the details of the steps he was about to take, and when he discovered their full impact would change his mind, according to a person familiar with their thinking who was not authorized to comment on it and spoke on the condition of anonymity. But ultimately, the president followed through on his campaign pledge at the urging of Jeff Sessions and other hardline members in his White House, including Stephen Miller, his top domestic advisor. Is anyone shocked? And some people say he's been talking about DACA since the campaign, so clearly he understands it. Trump's been talking about healthcare since the beginning of his campaign. We found out a couple months ago he didn't seem to know the difference between life insurance and health insurance. This is not at all shocking, if true, that Trump had no idea what would happen if he rescinded DACA.
Oh, of course. Why didn't I see it? There were a few tweets that Trump sent out on this issue that I was like, well, that's a weird thing to say. He basically said, like, oh, I'll revisit the issue. Like, oh, we'll give it 6 months for Congress Act, and then, I'll revisit the issue. Wait, what? You're going to give Congress 6 months to act, and then you're going to revisit it? Well, then why would you announce that you would be 6 months and then you're rescinding it? Why would you say you're going to revisit it? Because then you could just not do what you just said you were going to do. That's weird. And then today, actually, right before I came on air, he tweeted something else. And there were reports that he tweeted this next thing at the behest of Nancy Pelosi. Like he made a deal with Democrats on the debt ceiling, which is a separate story, but so he talked to Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi said, Mr. President, I don't think people know exactly what your position is on DACA, so why don't you, tweet clarification? And then he tweeted something like, oh, you don't have to worry for at least the 6 month period. Like, don't worry, the DACA kids. So I'm reading these, I'm like, that's so bizarre, because he just made the decision, and now he's basically hedging and backtracking almost when he says, like, oh, you have nothing to worry about. Or, oh, look, I'll revisit. If Congress doesn't do anything, well, I'll revisit. Why would you say that? Because he didn't fucking know what it was. He didn't know what he was doing. So he makes the decision because Jeff Sessions is like, well, Don, we need you to do this because we don't like brown people. I mean, what? Did I say that out loud? And, he's got the far right fringe in his administration telling him, look, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. He's like, oh, okay, tremendous, I'll do it, believe me. But then after the fact, he probably sees the media coverage and then some going, oh, so what that means is the 800,000 people who were brought here as kids under the age of 16, but most of them were like fucking toddlers. So 800,000 people who've been here for years is all they know. The kids of undocumented immigrants, well, they didn't, choose to come here when they're 4 or 5 or whatever. This is all they know. What are we going to do? We're going to fucking deport them? Where do you even deport them to? Where do you deport them to? They don't know anywhere else. So he does this, and he probably realized after the fact, like, oh, that's what I did? Oh. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to revisit this. So he didn't know. Who makes a decision like that and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing? How is that possible? You're fucking president of the United States, man. Whoever's the last one in the room who says something that seems mildly convincing, he's like, oh, let's do that. I like that. Believe me. This is the same thing that happened under Bush, too, by the way. There are reports that Cheney would stay back when all the other advisors were finished talking. Cheney would stay back and just sway Bush in whatever direction Cheney wanted him to go in. Well, this is effectively what's happening with Trump, too. I guess it was Sessions in this case, who's like, we're going to do this. He's like, okay, believe me, that's a great idea. Let me just tell you. Oh, he's so stupid. Look out, man. Nobody's driving the ship. The ship has no captain, and we're heading towards rocks.